Welcome to another episode of Done Not Perfect, the video version. This is the first video podcast that I have released, and I am excited to do that. It's about damn time, if I'm being honest. But welcome to another episode of Done Not Perfect. I'm your host, Aaron Simpson. Many people call me Ace. If this is your first time here, welcome. You are much appreciated. You could be doing anything with your time. So for you to choose to be here means so much to the community. If you are a subscriber for a while, welcome back. What's good? And you guys know the deal. If this message, if this episode blesses you, please subscribe if you haven't. Rate us and review us. Everyone so far has rated us 5 stars, which is great. So if you feel compelled to do that, that's amazing. And also share with a friend. If there's someone that comes to mind during this episode, feel free to share it to them. Share it with them. The more, the merrier. You never know who may need the message at that specific time. So the last episode was my reintro. It's almost a year since I've done the pod, but we back, baby. We back. Today I have something that was really on my heart, and I have my notes over here. So if you see me look over, I'm looking at my notes to make sure I don't forget anything. But I want to talk about something that is really synonymous with what this podcast, Done Not Perfect, is about. It's really important to me because it's something I really had to overcome. And I also see it impacting my clients, the people that I work with, the entrepreneurs, business owners, 7, 8-figure owners that I work with that really struggle with this. So I think more people need to hear this. And so I wanted to get this on wax. And that is, you're not inconsistent because you aren't disciplined. Okay. So we're talking starting and stopping. We're like, you do it and then you don't. You do it, then you don't. The reason why you're doing that is not because you don't have no discipline. It's because you don't trust yourself enough. So my hope at the end of this episode is for you to gain greater clarity and overall understanding of what area or areas of your life are you struggling with lack of trust. And I want to start with this. Confidence. This word gets thrown around a lot. Confidence. The root form of that word means to confide in. Confidence. It means to confide, right? So when you look at people in your life, whether they're friends or family members or your significant other, you tend to confide in those people a lot more than some random stranger on the street, right? Like Forrest Gump. Like you ain't Forrest Gump and dumping your whole story on some people on a park bench. Like we're not doing that in real life. But the reason why there are select few people in our lives that we can confide in them is because they have proven time after time after time that you can do what? Trust them. So when you confide in someone, you are declaring to that individual and to you that this is someone that you trust. And so because you trust them, you are more open to give them more personal information than you would to someone that you don't. What does this have to do with you? Well, if you're struggling with self-confidence, really what you're struggling with is self-trust. You don't trust yourself enough in the area that you're struggling in with confidence. So what does this have to do with starting and stopping and consistency? Well, it has everything to do with it. Because when there is a lack of consistency, there is a lack of trust. If someone shows up and then doesn't, and does that more often than not, there is a lack of trust there, right? If someone is only going to come around in your life when there is a benefit for them, but when the shoe is on the other foot and you need them and they're not there, you're not going to trust them as much because they're inconsistent. They show up when they want, but they don't show up when they're needed. So when you look at your life, and before we get into this episode, I want you to really think about this. When is the most recent time in your life when you can honestly say, I dropped the ball on that? I dropped the ball. And when I look at me, right, I've shared about this a lot over the last year or so, but 2 years ago, I was in the worst shape of my life. So if you're new to this podcast, you can listen to episodes prior, but I'll give you a brief overview. 2 years ago, now 3 in 2023, I was in the worst shape of my life, close to 280 pounds, just burnt out, overweight, overworked, just stressed emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, the whole thing just in horrible shape. Fast forward now, I'm 190 pounds. I'm in the best shape of my life. and I'm 38, going on 39 in April. My Whoop says my biological age is 31. So biologically, I am functioning as someone that's almost 10 years younger. So that's where my health is right now. 2 years ago, it was the complete opposite. I had the HRV of a senior citizen. Like my resting heart rate, my HRV, my levels were as equal to someone that was in their 60s and 70s. That's how poor my health was. Now I flipped it. But to be somebody that is in the health and wellness space, when I graduated college in 2009, I stopped playing basketball in 2010, and I became a personal trainer and a fitness coach. For 13 years up until that point, I was helping hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, both in person and virtually, to get in the best shape of their life. I was a fitness model, right? I did commercials and the underwear shoots when I was living in New York City in 2012. Like I know how to get in physical shape. But why was I struggling to get in good health? Because there's a difference between being in shape and being healthy. There's a lot of people that aesthetically look like they're healthy, but internally they're not. So I was helping people do the thing that I was inconsistent with. Why? Well, I got my answer was playing basketball, turning pro, being a fitness model, all that stuff. I looked at health and wellness as a means to an end. If I was in shape on the court, I would perform better in the game. If I looked better aesthetically, I would get more jobs. So the way that I looked at health and wellness, it was a means to an end. I never knew how to be healthy for me. Everything was about to get something else or to achieve something in the outcome. It was never about overall health and well-being, if that makes sense. So my inconsistency was I didn't trust myself to be consistent with me. If this was basketball related, if this was fitness modeling, I'd do whatever it took because there was a means to an end. But on this journey of life, it's not over until we're buried in the dirt. I never knew how to be healthy for Aaron. I never knew that. So I would start and stop, start and stop. And so what I uncovered, which is what I'm going to be sharing with you today, I had an identity problem. I viewed worthiness and value to validation, meaning if I was getting validation from someone else, that would let me know that I was doing a good job. So I viewed my standards and my worthiness in this life based on the value that everyone else was putting on me. So if I was in great shape, I would get great work. I'm doing great. If I'm running the miles and I'm putting the work on the court and I'm scoring 30, I'm doing great. But I didn't know how to be healthy for Aaron. I didn't know. And what I realized was the only way for me to be healthy for me is I had to identify as someone that this is the standard for how I want to live my life. And so until the standard was there, the inconsistency was there. And the way the brain works is every time you say you're going to do something and you don't, your brain registers that. It remembers. And so when you say that 2026 is new year, new me, this is going to be the year I change physically, this is the year my business is going to grow, this is the year our relationship changes, it remembers what you said in 2024 and so on and so forth. And you ain't do shit. I said it so many times, I didn't do shit. The reason why that's important is because you have evidence in the past of you being inconsistent with you. So every single time you say you're going to do something different, until you have proof, subconsciously, your brain is not going to believe you. It's not. It's not going to move with you. It's going to move against you. And so when we're looking at being consistent in our life, as I'm looking at my notes here, the very first thing that I want to offer is inconsistency is learned. It's not who you are. And here's what I mean by that. You have to learn to be inconsistent, whether it's you saw it with your parents, you saw it with your friends, you saw it with your family, you saw inconsistency modeled in a way where you've adopted that. Maybe your parents said one thing and did another. Maybe, they were inconsistent in their marriage. Maybe, brother was inconsistent or your sister was. And some way or another, inconsistency was modeled in a way where it became tolerated, where it became okay to be inconsistent because there was no ramifications for that, right? There was no one felt any consequence of that. So maybe you were someone that waited to the last minute to do your homework. Maybe you were somebody that, would wait to the very last minute when you got a paper that was due at the end of the semester and you waited to 2 days before the semester end to start it. Maybe you saw inconsistency in a marriage and that's how you thought a relationship would be. So you were inconsistent in your dating life growing up. Maybe. But somewhere down the line, inconsistency became something that you learned, because I don't really believe that people lack discipline, because I think discipline is not something that you do, it's who you evolve into. The first thing you have to do is be consistent. And once you're consistent, you evolve into someone who is disciplined. But I don't think people really lack the discipline. I think people have learned just there's an expectation I'm going to quit on myself. There's an expectation there. When things get challenging, when things get confusing, when things get misunderstood or they become too complex, I'm done. I've had it. This is enough. I mean, think about it. It's January 15th, I think, today. And we have hit that period where the New Year's resolutioners are starting to quit. Like it's 2 weeks after they said they were going to start, they're going to be done. To the point that it's like a national holiday. It's celebrated. It's like National Quitters Day or something like that. And it's like 2 weeks after you said that you were going to make a change, you're already throwing in the towel. And why is that? Well, it's because you've seen yourself enough times since you were a little kid. When things got challenging, when things got difficult, when they got overwhelming, you quit. But not only did you quit, it was accepted that you quit. Like it was okay. I mean, not to get too, I don't have any kids. I'm not married, but I want kids and I desire to be married. But when I was growing up, when I was playing sports, we didn't get participation trophies. Like I didn't get a trophy for just being on the team. I didn't get that, nor was it expected. Right? Like I wanted to be the best. And you can ask anybody that I ever played baseball with. When I grew up playing baseball, it was the first sport I played, the most naturally gifted sport I played. I was always playing an age or two above me. So all of my friends growing up were like 1 to 2 years older than me. But I was always playing at a higher level. And I was the third or fourth hitter in baseball, which means I was one of the best hitters on the team, if not the best. I would win the Hitman Award, countless all-star games, all-star MVPs, championships. We were undefeated. There was a desire to be good. And if you didn't play, like you didn't get playing time just because you were on the team. You had to earn it. And now there's like an expectation for parents that because their kids showed up to practice and because they played in a game, that they should get the same attention and love as someone that's actually good and doing the work. I don't agree with that, especially like when you're 4 or 5 years old, cool. But when like you're 9, 10, 11, when you understand the concept that you have to practice to get better, like, no. I remember a couple years ago, I was at the park playing basketball, and there was this woman there with her son, and I was sitting on the bench, and she was kind of sitting across from me, and we were talking about youth sports. And she said that, the league that her son played in, everyone gets a trophy and it's great. Like she's talking about it like it's the greatest thing. And like inside, my blood is like boiling. And I kept thinking to myself, just don't ask me if I agree with it. Like this conversation is going great. Happy for your son. I'm glad his self-esteem is great, but don't ask me if I agree with it, because if you ask me, I'm going to tell you the truth. She asked me, okay? She asked me. And I said, well, if I'm going to be honest, I didn't grow up with it. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. And she said, why? I said, well, I just don't agree that the player that doesn't play gets the same recognition of the player that plays a lot and produces more. That just doesn't make sense to me. And she said, yeah, I get that, but they're kids, And I said, well, let me ask you this question. I think her son was like 9 or 10. I said, does your son do well in school? She said, yeah, he gets all A's. Like he does his homework on time. Just give me the whole rundown. I'm like, okay, cool, great. Now, what if my son that I don't have showed up to half the classes, turned in homework half the time, didn't do well on tests, but at the end of the year got the same recognition academically as your son? Is that fair? She was like, no. I said, okay, well, what if he just didn't get A's all the time, but he was in class every single day. He did the homework on time. He just didn't get as good grades as your son. But at the end of the year, they got the same academic award. Is that fair? She was like, no. I said, that's how I feel about sports. And the point that I'm making is like inconsistency or being not as good. And there has been this idea that as soon as you face friction, it's okay because you're going to get rewarded anyway. It's okay to not work hard. It's okay to not get there early. It's okay not to stay late because in the end, you're going to end up getting the same trophy that everyone else is getting. So what's the point? And so when I look at myself as a kid, there were moments in my life where I was just like, oh yeah, of course in my 30s, I'm struggling with this because when I was a kid, I used to skate by with it. Right? So like it makes sense. And so when I look at the people that I work with and maybe with you, when it comes to discipline, I don't think there's a lack of it. I just think we've learned to quit. I think quitting has been rewarded because we equate if you're doing something hard or if it's not working right away or if it's too much friction, that means it's not for me. I would submit to you that if you're doing something and there's no friction, there's no adversity, there's no pressure, I would submit that's even more not for you because God never said your purpose and what I've called you to do, it's going to be a seamless transition. You're never going to feel adversity. I'm going to remove all pain. I'm going to remove all discomfort and everything is going to be peaches and cream. When Jesus was baptized, I keep saying this, but when Jesus was baptized in the Jordan River in Luke chapter 3, God comes down from the heavens and said, this is my son who I am well pleased. And everyone's like, oh my God, that's God. This is crazy. Like God just came down and said that. The very next chapter, the very next line, it says the Holy Spirit led Jesus into the wilderness for 40 days and for 40 nights to be tempted by the enemy. Right after the greatest, biggest, most impactful moment of his life, right after that was adversity and hardship. Right after that. So I would submit to you that the moment you make a decision that is best for you, always expect hardship on the opposite side of that decision. So when you see these people, the second week in January, dropping out of the gym, totally crossing out their New Year's resolution, crumbling up and throwing it in the trash, it's because they expected the decision to not have hardship. And so when hardship comes, they think that they're doing something wrong when in reality, they're doing something right. We don't have a discipline issue. We've learned to expect ourselves to quit when adversity and hardship happen. That's the first thing. The second thing is motivation always fails. Motivation will always fail because it can't carry identity. What does that mean? Identity is a spiritual thing. It is a state of being. It is who you are internally. But more importantly, it's who you are internally, regardless of how you feel. Motivation is a tool. When you have it, you use it, but it's also a feeling. Those people, January 1st, that quit January 15th, January 1st, they had all the motivation in the world. It was easy to get up. It was easy to meal prep. It was easy to go to the gym. It was easy to do the thing. It was easy to do the cold plunge. It was easy to do the sun. It was easy to count calories. It was easy because the motivation was high. January 15th, that feeling's gone. It's gone. And if you're only going to be someone that is consistent when you feel like it, you're never going to be consistent, which means you will never be disciplined, which means your character and your identity will always be shaken. The moment adversity happens, you throw in the towel. Why? Because you look at life based on everything being in perfect conditions and when you feel like it. Your purpose doesn't care what you feel like. It doesn't. This is what I had to learn. I am very talented and I'm very gifted in a lot of areas. But I lived my life, the majority of it, on a feeling. If I didn't feel like it, I'm going to do it. When I felt like it, I'm on it. The moment I didn't feel like it, I started to question it. When I felt like it, I was all in. Maybe you can relate. Motivation is emotional. Identity is structural. The people that are able to still get it done when they don't feel like it don't rely on emotion. They rely on structure. What do I mean? This is why it's very important in the areas that you want to get consistent in. You have to give yourself boundaries. You have to have structure. You have to have the thing mapped out, and you're doing the same thing every single day. If it's not boring, you ain't doing it right. And this is another issue. This generation growing up, we want everything to be fun. Consistency ain't loud. It ain't. One of my favorite pictures of Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. I had this picture on my phone. It was my screensaver for a long time, even before he passed. It was this picture that someone took of him. I want to say it was like 1999 or 2000 is when he had his fro. And I think it was the 2000 season. And he broke his right hand. Now, Kobe was right-handed. And there's a picture of him in his pajama pants. And he's got his practice shorts over his pajama pants. And he's got his practice jersey on. And he's got his right hand taped. And he's shooting free throws with his left hand. It's my favorite picture of Kobe because that right there summed who this man was. My purpose, my game, my skill, my responsibility is still there even with the broken hand. I may not be able to shoot with this hand, but I can shoot with this one. I may not be able to dribble with this one, but I can dribble with that one. That level of commitment was not emotional. How many athletes do we see today? They sprain an ankle. They hurt their finger. They in street clothes. This man broke his hand and was at the gym early in the morning in his pajama pants shooting free throws left-handed. That's not emotional. That's structure. He was going to be at the gym regardless if his hand was broken or not because that's who he was. That's an identity thing. I'm not doing this to prove a point. I'm doing this because this is who I am. And if you want to get more consistent, you have to stop relying on motivation and you have to rely on structure. Now, when it comes to structure, my recommendation is structure everything based on what you actually can do. What do I mean? If you haven't worked out in 30 years, don't give yourself a 5 a.m. wake-up call. Don't give yourself the responsibility of being in the gym 5 days a week. Don't give yourself the responsibility of counting macros. You're not there yet. It's not time for that yet. If you haven't been to the gym in 30 years and you want to start getting in better shape and having better habits, how about you just go out to eat one less time this week? How about you just commit to 2 or 3 20-minute walks? Commit to going to bed an hour earlier and waking up an hour earlier. That's it. Commit to drinking water with every meal. Like start small. Why is this important? No, it's not going to move the needle like if you were just going to do intermittent fasting and do, carnivore diet and you're going to start doing CrossFit out of nowhere, of course, but it's a sustainable system. Because if you can commit to 3 days a week of walking 20 minutes, one less time eating out a week, going to bed an hour earlier, waking up an hour earlier, and you can see yourself do it day in and day out, what's that going to do? It's going to build confidence. Why? Because you're going to trust yourself now because there's little micro decisions that you've stuck with that you said that you were going to do. And because it was doable, challenging, but doable and repeatable, your brain is like, oh, she's a person of her word. Oh, he's a person of his word. So when he says, I'm going to go from walking 3 20-minute walks to 3 20-minute walks in 2 gym sessions, the brain's going to be like, yeah, she can do that. Yeah, he can do that because they're a man of their word. Build your structure off of something that is doable and sustainable long term. I always say this to my clients. On your shittiest day, you got to have a floor and a ceiling. What do I mean? When the world goes to shit and it's like the worst day ever, you should still be able to do something. Whatever that something is, that's your bare minimum. That's your floor. So when you know what your floor is, you never have an excuse why you didn't do something because you already said when life goes to hell, I know I can go for a walk or do some push-ups or do this thing. So you always have that. the thing is, hopefully life never goes that way for you. But if it did, you have an answer. So have your structure based on what is doable and repeatable for an extended period of time. And the last thing I want to say quickly is, which kind of piggybacks off the last point. See how I did that? Consistency is built through small kept promises. This is why I said in my last point, it has to be doable and repeatable, because these are small promises that you're keeping to yourself, that you are seeing yourself do it day in and day out. This is how you build consistency, because you're keeping your promises to yourself. One of the reasons why it was so hard for me to change my life physically was because, dude, I didn't believe what I said I was going to do it. I didn't believe myself. I broke my promises. It was just like, okay, yeah, we'll see. There's nothing worse than you saying to yourself, we'll see. There's nothing worse than you telling yourself, no, we'll see about that. We'll see. I'll believe it when I see it. And I'm talking about me. That's crazy, but it's common. You said you've been wanting to do this for how long? I believe it when I see it. Because it's easy to say it when the motivation is high, but it's different when it's not. That's why your structure and your consistency is built through small kept promises, because it's the small kept promises that you keep when you emotionally you want to make a different decision, but they're doable just enough and small just enough to still make that choice. And when you see yourself do that day in and day out, not only will you build the consistency with you, not only will you build the trust within you, but you will become someone that is disciplined, that your lifestyle is now on autopilot. That's what a lifestyle is. A lifestyle is like a palm tree. It looks great standing up with no wind. It's beautiful. I live in LA. I see palm trees all the time, right? When you drive past it in Beverly Hills or wherever you're at, you look at a palm tree and there's no wind and it's clear blue. You look at that thing, it's like, God, that's a beautiful tree. But when there's wind, when there's a storm, there's turmoil, what does it do? It bends. When the circumstances are not ideal, it bends. But it never breaks. There's a reason why palm trees are in tropical weather, because they don't break. They're beautiful standing up. When adversity comes, they bend, but they never break. That's what a lifestyle is. It's beautiful when everything is perfect. When life gets chaotic, it's going to bend a little bit, but it's never going to break. It's never going to go away. That's a lifestyle. When you know you have a real good lifestyle is when it works, when everything is going perfect, and when life is chaotic, you're traveling more, something happens with your family, things get crazy that are out of your control. You may have to bend a little, you may have to give a little, you may have to pivot a little, but it's never going to break. It will always sustain you. Most of us are like a rigid tree. It stands there in the ground and it's beautiful when it's perfect. But as soon as adversity comes, a windstorm, ice storm, whatever, branches are falling and everything just breaks because it's not built for adversity. And that's most of our lifestyles. We built it off of that momentum and that motivation of New Year's Eve. This is amazing. But we never account the weather conditions. You see, who you are is not when things are going according to plan, it's who you are when they're not. That's why consistency is a spiritual thing, not an emotional thing. Because it's who you are no matter what is going on in life. That is your state of being. Consistency, it's learned. It's number one. Number two, motivation fails because it could never carry an identity. An emotion can never carry a spiritual weight. It can't, okay? And the last thing is consistency is built through small kept promises. If you do these three things and you put structure and protect it, game is over. Game's over. But I want to close with this, because I feel like somebody needs to hear this. You're not broken. So let's just get that out the way. You're not broken. You don't need a new personality. You don't need another book. You don't need another YouTube video. You don't need another motivational song. You don't need another seminar. You don't need that. And all those things are great. They're all great. What you need is structure. Structure gives you freedom. Freedom, true freedom, comes from structure. Freedom is not the ability to do what you want when you want. It's the ability to do what you want when you want, and it doesn't cost you anything. When you can do what you want, whenever you want, however you want, with whomever you want, and it won't cost you anything, that's freedom. But if you're doing whatever you want, whenever you want to do it, however you want to do it, and it's costing you consistency, it's costing you your peace, that's not freedom. That's chaos. Masking as freedom. You need structure. And this can be fixed like that. One way that you can fix it is you can join the Consistency Lab, which is my coaching group that I have with people that show up once a week. And I hop on a Zoom and I coach on topics, consistency, accountability, systems, structures, practices, things like that to help you become more consistent in your life. If you want to join that, just click the link in the show notes. It's $98 a month. You can cancel whenever you want. But the purpose of the group is to be with like-minded people who are on a similar journey as you. You get to ask questions. You get to be a part of challenges. You get to be in the the group channel so you can talk to other people and then you share wins and things like that. But the point of it is every week we're going to meet, and I am giving you everything you need to be consistent in whatever area that is. Most people come because of health and wellness and relationship and identity. That's one way. Join the Consistency Lab. Click the link in the show notes and help you. Now, the other thing that I would say that would help is healing comes in community, okay? That's why this group is so important, because healing for what you need comes in community. But if it's not with us, I would strongly recommend that you get an accountability group with people in your immediate circle. So whether you actually are with them in person or it's text message or it's a phone call or whatnot, healing comes in community. Being in a group while you're in this is going to help tremendously, because if you are someone that's inconsistent and you're the only one holding yourself accountable, you're probably going to sabotage your progress. But if you're with people who are consistent or are on the same journey as you, and you guys can hold each other accountable, the possibilities are endless, okay? This podcast moving forward, this is what we're going to be talking about. Not just consistency and stuff like that, but not trying to be so perfect and have everything put together before you do something, but to just do it. You already know what to do, you just got to do it. But there's a reason why you're not doing it. And hopefully this podcast helps unlock and block that. And we're going to have guests, we're going to have experts, we're going to do the thing. But for right now, I knew this is something that I wanted to do and I wanted to bring back. So I'm just doing it. I'm not even trying to get everything figured out. I'm just doing it, right? I'm embodying what I want to teach. So if this episode helped you in any way, and you felt it in your spirit, you felt compelled, and someone came to mind, share it, please. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast on whatever platform, please do so. Rate us 5 stars if you believe that to be true, and also leave a fine comment. I love reading the comments from you guys. But this is where we're going to be. I'm probably about to drop this episode today. We'll see how the video thing goes. This is the first one. But I'm on fire right now, right? But I want to keep this going at least once a week. So I hope this episode served you. Hope it spoke to you. Hope it connected with you. I love you so much. Be safe, be blessed. And I'll see you soon. And thank you for listening to Done Not Perfect. Take care.